Hello, Markus.
Hello, Ashkan.
It's very nice to see you today.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to have another conversation with you.
Wonderful.
Okay. So I have a topic in mind today. It starts from the experience of me seeing some clients with the same problem. I mean, the same presentation of a problem, I would say. And that is the problem with a kind of a perfectionism, and at the same time, kind of a self-punishment for procrastination and uh, complaints about feeling of not worthiness, like I'm not useful, I'm lazy, I'm not making use of my time and energy, the opportunities I have. And what's interesting is that they see me as someone productive because it seems that I do a lot of things at the same time, being involved in a few communities and uh, like producing a lot of things. They see me as productive, but that's not how I understand myself. I would sometimes say I'm a lazy person. I procrastinate a lot of things, and but what's seen from outside is a lot of production, a lot of things that uh, can be seen as the outcome of what I'm doing. So they sometimes expect me to become a coach for them, like teaching them how to schedule their works and how to plan for a lot of things and how to be more active. But what I do and where I start from is exactly the opposite. To actually relax and go back, one step back, and to see where they are, what's really important to them, uh, what is really motivating for them. Yeah, but it's not easy to do that. Sometimes people are obliged to do some works. People find themselves in some situations that are forced to do a lot of things, but they do procrastination, and it's difficult for them to go step back and see whether it's really the work that they want to do, especially in the age that is more difficult to, for example, lose a job and change the job or change the situation. uh, yeah, so that's the starting point.
Mm. Yeah, relaxing into what precedes efforting. For me, efforting isn't sustainable. Always make an effort, make an effort. Always having to make something.
Yeah.
So I think your sense to work sort of counterintuitive rather than helping them to achieve their goals and not procrastinate, but rather to relax. And strength actually matters, creates a springboard or a trajectory for something that actually nurtures them and that they enjoy.
Yeah.
So, people kind of make up stories about what they should do, and then they're stuck in that place of, well, I should. And it becomes a kind of a way of life to force yourself to do what you should do, which is not fun. And what I understand of you, Ashkan, is that um, if you don't really enjoy it, you don't really want to do it. And what I say is, if it doesn't nurture, don't give it anything. So it's kind of like helping them to sort of step back to what precedes all of their ideas about what they should be doing, which aren't really working because they kind of have to force themselves to be motivated. And so this word procrastination, for me, there are many ways phenomenologically that we can look at procrastinating. Procrastinating is a result of something. So we want to go to what precedes the procrastinating to see, well, why?
Yeah. Yeah. And it also links to another concept, responsibility. Because then they sometimes is okay, but then I'm not responsible for my job if I'm procrastinating, and people call me irresponsible, and there is a sense of guilt about it. But how can you be responsible for something that you're not enjoying and you're not willing to do?
Well, then really, then what the support that can be used within the therapeutic frame is just asking what's sustainable. I mean, short range, you can get it together to fulfill the needs of the job and be responsible, able to respond, get it together, short range.
Yeah.
You sort of pull yourself together and you do it. But I'm interested in this idea of what comes before all the doing, disciplining yourself and all of that doing stuff. I can do this, and you pull it together. I'm interested in what's sustainable, which is something like responsibility as how are you being so that your ability to respond has a kind of congruency. How I am matches how I'm being, which serves what I'd like to do. Kind of like backtracking. So otherwise, we're in behavior modification, which is okay sometimes. I need to modify my behavior, but I don't want to do that all the time. Keep modifying your behavior so that you're responsible.
Yeah.
But to go to what precedes that, to the more I go to my core, to recognize what's essential to me before I start being responsible for all of the things that are important. You don't have to make deadlines less important, but it seems like the therapeutic frame is to recognize how to take care of what's essential. And maybe you're not doing that, so that all the things that are important are kind of a distraction because some part of you is saying, come back to what's essential, but you haven't really named it or found it yet. So the expressive arts is one of the ways to strengthen your resonance with what's essential so that you can just do all of the things that are important and not make it a big deal. Yeah, it's important that I finish this on time. No big deal. Because you're taking care of something deeper than that which is essential. So taking care of all these things that are important are no big deal.
Yeah. So how do you see it in some difficult social situations that people are in situations that they have to make money to survive, and they don't find a space for paying attention to that in what precedes.
It's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
Which is a problem. It's a problem to say, I have to take care of what's important. I don't have time to take care of what's essential. That's the problem. And that's where therapy comes in. And it's not to get it from being a problem to not a problem, but rather the problem of not taking care of first things first, just being difficult, so that we can say to the client, no problem, just really difficult. Let's see how we can create, not find a way, but create a way for you to strengthen your resonance with your core or your innermost or you, so that all the things that are secondary,
Yeah.
like all those things that are in your life that are important, which are secondary to what's essential, have some ease to it. So, but the process of getting to that ease could be difficult, but it's to get them to agree that, okay, it doesn't have to be a problem, that it's hard for me to make time and space. It's just difficult, and I need to do that because the way I'm living is not sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other side that I see important is that it's like a narrative, a social narrative to become successful,
No.
becoming the first goal. So you have to make a success in your life. So you have to be productive in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of powerful speeches people hear every day that strengthens this self-punishing voice. Like, oh, okay, then I'm not enough. I'm not putting enough effort. If I'm in a certain class of social class, it's my fault. I'm not making enough effort to go higher and higher to become successful. And if I'm not making enough money, then I'm not valuable. Yeah. Yeah, and I've talked to you about money before, and you gave me an interesting response. Said you don't uh, care about it that much, but you're making a lot. It's something like this.
Yeah, I think what I said to you is, I'm not attracted to the phenomenon of taking, but I'm open to receiving.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people have a lot of beliefs. They believe that, if they make more money, they'll have more worth. If you're successful, you'll be happier. These are all just beliefs. They are not what the person actually knows is true. And that's what therapy is for. Is this a belief that you've adopted from the outside? Or when you get really quiet and go within, do you know that that's true?
Yeah.
And it's difficult to quiet the noise inside from all of the voices we've taken in. And that's why we call it therapy. It is a therapeutic process to quiet the noise so that you can start to hear your own voice. And for some people, their voice might be more visual. And we paint with them and they say, oh, I'm starting to get the picture of who I really am. Or maybe they're a writer, write poetry or prose, and they say, I'm starting to hear my voice. Or they're more kinesthetic, more in their body, more like a dancer, and they start to do some movement work with you, and they start to say, I feel like I'm breathing again, my body's coming alive, I'm connecting. So it is a therapeutic process to come back to kind of an original state, something that precedes all of the beliefs that we develop from things we've heard from the outside. So the therapy is, how do we come back to what precedes all of the noise about what we should do and that we turned into beliefs and didn't consciously realize that we adopted these beliefs and are not necessarily what's true for us.
Mhm. Mhm. Would you say a little bit more on how expressive arts help facilitate this connection within to what precedes and through the arts? I know I've talked to you a lot before, but for this special conversation, I'd like to elaborate a little more.
Sure. It's pretty hard to move in an art form without intimacy. I think to be intimate with the canvas, or intimate with your body when you're moving, or intimate with the formulation of the words in the poem, an intimate relationship between your hands and the clay and creating the sculpture. Any of these things in the expressive arts is to support an inherent ability to be intimately engaged with the moment, to just what's classically called just be here now. And then when we work with the arts, it kind of gives us a way to give form to that sense of presence. So intimately present to the moment is being. Now I need to embody that sense of being me, being intimately aware of that inner movement. But then I need to find the language of expression for giving form to all that I know, all of that movement within that starts to awaken. Because I can see a lot and I can have a lot of insights, but it doesn't necessarily create change. So the expressive arts is not just about having insights, but to have the capacity to actually embody those insights, to have a shift from just an idea to actually to embody our ideas of how to be congruent, how our outer world can truly not only reflect our inner world, but embody our inner world. And the arts are one of the ways to kind of massage our inner energy into outer energy, to create a kind of a bridge for awareness to become a way of life, to live aware in an embodied way, not just looking around and being aware of everything. Or sometimes I call it the evolution of conscious awareness. Expressive arts helps us to be conscious of this awakening awareness, of this sense of ourselves as these incredible beings. And my first responsibility is to give what I am as this being a life in who I am. So expressive arts are kind of a bridge to come back to this question, what am I? And work with metaphor and give that a life in who I am. That's my first responsibility. That's what I call essential, how to give what I am a life in who I am. Do what I can to take care of that bridge back and then the bridge out into the world. That's essential. And then there are lots of important things that I need to do. Simple everyday things that I need to take care of.
But then the
First,
ordinary becomes non-ordinary.
that's right. That we in expressive arts we go to these extraordinary places of creativity, but it's not to just go in a bubble and do something extraordinary. It's to awaken our senses through the extraordinary experience that we can have in art making, and then go back to the ordinary in an unordinary way because of our heightened sensitivity to what's moving within us, what's moving between us, and our sense of what's moving around us, a kind of awakening of our sensitivity through these extraordinary explorations in the arts. And then you come to really just like being more vibrant and more connected to your essential vitality. So I would say, if you call yourself lazy, it's just on the level of the self. The self, I call it a softness. That my self is not an aggressive doer. Myself just allows, makes way for what I am as this spirit, this feisty spirit that wants to play in the world and do fun things. So in a sense, myself is just a vehicle for me. So it's not that myself is lazy, it's just kind of passive in a good way. It says, okay, I'm here to give form to you as your essence of your being. So the self is in a kind of dependency on what I first am, so that it has a life that is serving what precedes the self, what I'm calling my innermost or my core. Some people might even use the word their soul, so that your self is a vehicle for your soul. There are many ways to name the sense of what precedes this construct called the self. So the expressive arts are to sort of create that bridge between whatever language we have for what we are as a being, as a spirit, as an innermost, and create that bridge so that the self becomes more and more like what we first are. So that we eliminate judgmental language like lazy and just say, I'm very relaxed, almost passive, so that all of my ideas and beliefs don't run my life, and that I just kind of attune to what precedes any kind of momentum. I don't have momentum. I also get a lot done, but it's not that I do what I want to do. I do what I kind of know to do. And my energy much of the time is very vertical. I don't have a lot of momentum, and just hanging out with oh, now this is opening. Oh, now that's opening. And I enjoy taking care of the things that are in my care. It doesn't feel like an imposed responsibility. In a lot of situations, people that are in my care. And I'm like, oh, great. It's lovely. It doesn't feel like too much, because it's not, I'm not driven by the momentum of the self wanting to achieve anything. The self is actually quite just in a place of willingness. Okay, what do you need done? Because, as a spirit, I need the body of myself to get things done. And again, that's what expressive arts does, is create that bridge so that my essential vitality gets to have form on this planet now and do stuff, do fun stuff.
I like it when you said myself is just relaxed, and it allows for what precedes to make a life and have a space. Because sometimes when someone tells me I'm very angry and that I do nothing, and I can see how the self-punishment is going on. They say, you are not doing nothing. You're doing a lot, putting a lot of effort, punishing yourself. So shall we just take a moment and relax and really do nothing to see what comes in your mind when you really do nothing and relax? Because in this state of mind, with all this punishment and being critical and being aggressive towards the self, people are very tired. The body is very tired. The body is very, very tired, and they need this relaxation to really heal.
Yes. Any kind of unkindness to self or others distracts us from our essential vitality. And before you know it, you're tired because you're not tuning into and resonating with what precedes what I would say the misuse of our intellect. When we're misusing our intellect, we're being judgmental rather than in the good use of the intellect, or I would say with the right use of the intellect, to use good judgment. To use good judgment is different from being judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the intellect. I like learning about the right use of the intellect. It's delightful. But if you don't really find a way to use the intellect in a way that nurtures, you'll get very tired. Yeah, you'll kind of overthink things and or do from adrenaline and momentum rather than a delicate, relaxed, gentled enjoyment of flow that comes from what I'm calling what you are into who you are. Expressive arts are great at coming up with, each person coming up with a metaphor for what they are. Someone would say, you know, I'm like a flower. And, you know, flowers don't accomplish things in a traditional human way. So if I say, okay, there's my metaphor, I'm a flower, and I say, well, when the petals are ready to open, they'll open. I can't make it open. So you have sort of an image that you're not lazy. That petal just isn't ready yet, you know. So what does it need? Well, it needs water. Well, what can I do to water it? I'm going to take a walk. I have the sense that that'll water. It'll activate my roots to absorb the water. And water is a metaphor for consciousness. And before you know it, their metaphor becomes practical. How can you as a flower live as a human being? You say, well, I have to make sure that I don't have an image of the flower is cut, but it's still connected to roots, and I need to take care of the roots. And maybe they tear up a little bit and they say, I read once that the longer it takes for a flower to open, the longer it stays open.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then you have something to work with. You're not working on procrastination issues.
Yeah.
They came up from something inside them, an image about why they're so slow to blossom. I'm just a slow to open big flower, and maybe some tears, and I can't make it go faster. I can do something to make sure it gets more sunshine and more water. And then you have more metaphors. Well, what is the sunshine? What is the water? It's not literal. I might say, well, sunshine is kind of like being with my friends more. And rather than thinking that as a distraction, now I have an image. Being with my friends is like a way for my flower to get some sunshine. I might say, well, what about the roots? That's my quiet time. Rather than calling it avoiding, I just need some time to connect to my roots and maybe some more tears. And in one session, they can work with these metaphors as a way to begin to shift from being judgmental to working with metaphors as a way to use good judgment on how to take care of themselves, using this metaphor like of the flower and the metaphor of sunshine and the metaphor of the roots, and have a more embodied understanding of how to change. And the change isn't necessarily how to go forward. Sometimes change is how do I come back? How do I come back?
Yeah. And what I also find very important in working as a therapist is to be able to facilitate a kind of a trust within.
Yeah.
Trust their own unique rhythm, their own unique speed and process. Sometimes my own, I would say my own style of hurrying up about something would just interfere with the process of someone else. So I have to learn how to relax and trust their process to go with their own speed, how the flower wants to open in its own speed, not to interfere with that, to push more or to expect more, especially when this trust is not built. You have to build it from the surface.
Well, ideally, the intimacy and the trust is the intimacy that you're both sharing the same moment. It's not that you have intimacy with the client or the client is intimate with you or the client trusts you, but rather trusting the unfolding of the shared moment. We can explore this together, and trusting, in a sense, the benevolent nature of what I was calling the evolution of conscious awareness. What are you noticing? My favorite question in therapy. It's a very phenomenological question. So what are you noticing right now that's happening in this room? So again, there's what's happening within, but there's also what's happening between and what's happening around. And you never know where the client is going to, or what the client is going to address. What's happening around them that's stressing them out, what's happening within them, maybe some dreams, what's happening between, they might address that maybe they're being a little performative with you and wanting to only show certain sides, whether it's only their best or only their worst. And so the intimacy is with a kind of skill that we bring to a one-pointedness, so that what the trust is in the trust of that we're actually sharing the same moment, that they're not leading the session and you're not leading the session. I had a conversation with someone yesterday about person-centered approach and the work of Natalie Rogers, the daughter of Carl Rogers, and it's beautiful work. Person-centered approach that Carl Rogers really made well known, and Natalie's bringing it forward through Expressive Arts, is very beautiful, very nurturing, and really incredibly helpful. And what I'm adding to this person-centered approach is awareness-centered. That we're just taking care of our capacity for awareness, and just what are you noticing? So that some of the times it's client-centered, the client knows themselves best, and we know something about how to create a frame, things to do, but to share in co-creating and opening. And then stepping in and say, looking around and say, what are you noticing? What are you noticing? The person might say, I'm noticing a kind of thickening or heaviness. And I might say, stay with that. What else are you noticing? And so that we together, we kind of open up the actual moment. They're not talking about, they're speaking from this moment that together we open. So the trust is trusting the ability to kind of innocently, benevolently open to a shared, truly beautiful opportunity to co-create clarity, to open the moment, that we don't have a big agenda to make a point or be helpful. But I think so that the trust grows by they see that, sensing the benevolence or the kindness that you're coming from, and they see that you don't know where we're going either. So it's not that they trust you, that you know where this is all going, but that they trust through that intimacy of the moment, your ability to co-create with them the desire for clarity. And the arts are one of the ways to proactively together explore, creating hopefully a little bit of clarity about what's happening here now.
And it's amazing how unique it is for each person in each moment. And you never know, and you're always surprised.
And to let the client see how humbling it is to together innocently explore what's going on, and that you're just as touched as they are when something shows itself and you actually discover something new. We're not the professionals that say, oh yes, I knew that you were going to discover this and I was taking you there, but rather, wow, look what just happened today. That's amazing. Look what we just discovered. This kind openness that we bring to the session, it's our fuel. That openness is what fuels our time together. And so what we want to do is encourage the client to sense our own enjoyment of just being open to surprise and open to newness, and invite them into that capacity to innocently explore.
You know what? Sometimes I think I go to university to learn how to know it all, and then I come to you to learn how not to know it all. It's a very different approach to this to the main,
I would say it's a little bit different than that, Ashkan. I would say in university, the emphasis is on understanding.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with understanding things. It has a place. I understand that if you neglect this, then that might happen. I understand. Understanding has a place. I think what I'm addressing is something that precedes understanding. Understanding is, for me, one of the last things to come. To just say, I have a sense for us to get on our feet now and explore with 2 paintbrushes on a great big piece of paper, and you don't understand why you're doing that maybe until later. And you say to the client, it's just my sense that let's start with that. And so in the university, it's a beautiful, the academic frame for understanding. And then it's this idea of what precedes understanding, what Eugene generally called a felt sense, and to cultivate a felt sense of what's actually occurring and how to organically be with the client and be with your response to the client. And at some point to bring in, oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand what was happening. And that's the right use of intellect coming in more toward the end of this innocent exploring, which is sort of the heart of expressive art.
Yeah. It's really a bottom-up approach, starting from the level of sensation.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. When I relax, I can feel energy coming up from the earth, which is another reason I went for a beautiful walk this morning. And by the end of the walk, I could really feel how my connection to the earth increased, and I could feel energy rising up through the bottoms of my feet, not from my head down, thinking about taking care of my body, but actually going out for a walk into nature, sort of the art of having a balanced life. I'm on Zoom a fair amount of the time, so I'm spending more and more time going for walks in the lovely woods outside of our home. And I totally agree with you that the sense of, from the bottom up, this idea of that's what I mean also by what's around us, our connection to the planet, as far as I'm concerned, is an essential part of expressive arts, that we are living in a context. Healing is not just within us. My connecting to the woods around me is part of my healing. So more and more I bring in a nature-based approach to expressive arts to start to say, this self that's healing within needs to land in the world. And yes, I live in a city and I do all this stuff, and I need to balance it with time in nature and being, to awaken my resonance with the nature of nature.
Yeah.
And this resonating with stones, and last night looking at the full moon and just letting my body open to all these phenomenon in nature, that kind of, when something fills, it fills from the bottom up. Yeah. So this infilling that can happen of something natural and real has the potential to sort of replace a lot of static and noise that we have. So just your hanging out with your clients kindly has the potential to create an infilling, so that you're not necessarily working on every single issue that caused them to procrastinate, but there's just like an infilling of gentle okayness that kind of supports the expelling of all of these embodied beliefs and all this noise and static that is kind of getting in the way of them just relaxing and enjoying their lives and being productive, not because they have to, but for the joy of playing on this planet as what you are, in who you are, delightfully, just enjoying being alive.
Yeah.
We get to be productive and create things. It's nothing like we have to, as far as I'm concerned. We just get to give what we are a life and who we are. We get to strengthen our resonance with our essential vitality and have it land in the everyday. As you said earlier, to take the extraordinary and have it show up in the ordinary, to transform the ordinary into quite an unordinary life because of the quality of the depth of engagement, truly engaged with life.
Yeah. Sort of like flowering instead of producing.
Yes, and know that I have so many projects going.
Yeah.
I'm redoing, I'm working with the person who does my World Arts Organization website, and I was doing a list of things that I've done since our last update, and it was crazy. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've done so much. Wow. So I realized, I might have started out with the image of a flower, but now it's a garden. And I am the gardener. There's a lot in my garden that I get to take care of and enjoy. I like being a gardener. It's nurtureful and nourishing. And there are times of harvesting and then times when of just planting some seeds. So it's kind of like knowing where you are in your cycle of taking care of either the potential for your garden or the responsibility of a garden that you've planted.
Oh.
So relaxing into our capacity to make wise choices. I suppose that's our main desire, I would say, as therapists, is to really help the person to relax into what precedes their fear and anxiety that they're not enough or they're too much, and just help them relax into their inherent beauty, creativity, wisdom. It's there. And once they attune to what's inherent, how to fulfill that potential. And again, the arts are a way to create a bridge into how it might show up, how that seeing differently and hearing differently and moving differently in the studio or the office. And I wonder how that's going to affect your everyday life.
Yeah.
How will the extraordinary show up in the ordinary, making the ordinary
Non-ordinary.
yes.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Amazing how essential relaxing is for our well-being. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly what protects us from not having burnout, I mean, in the work. Because it's healing, right? It's not the effort that's tiring, but it's the effort that's healing.
What the Buddhists call effortless effort, and to resonate with the reality that you are that flame. You are that flame, and that flame is what gets to have a life. Burnout for me is kind of like being victimized by your own power and beauty, rather than the fire of what I've been calling essential vitality, gets to have a life as you. So, it's not really burnout prevention. It's really just claiming your capacity for what I've been calling essential vitality, sometimes symbolized by your fire as your resource, your fuel for right action. Thanks for your, we call it a love of finding questions that are worth exploring and bringing them to our visits. I love your curiosity about how our time together can unfold meaningfully, and I really appreciate our visits very much.
Well, of course, me too. And also, I'm very happy when I see comments from people or feedbacks that they find it useful. And it's like it's not just here now between you and us, but you and I, but also it's expanding. And yeah, every time someone says I resonated with you when I saw the video, I feel like this space is expanded.
Yes, the word generative comes to mind. To live in a way where we, throw out the tiny pebble, that creates a ripple, is a way of life. That what we do. I talk about transcend and include. We transcend our personal needs and curiosities and include them. So that in that sort of transcending the small self, you also include the small self that wants to say, did I reach you? Did you, I mean, we're doing this just to celebrate creating clarity, but it is lovely to have someone say, wow, you reached me. I think, yay. Because, then it becomes so generative that, that we put out and receive and explore and release and receive this generative energy that we have in this community of Expressive Arts Without Borders and World Arts Organization and all of these different venues for connecting with community at creating community online with people responding from so many countries.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
Very nice. That's very nice. Yeah. Okay. So thank you. And I'm already looking forward to our next visit with another.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find this little button to stop the recording. I can. I found it. Great. All right. Ashkan. See you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.